Man, I tell you, it's getting colder outside in Athens today. Way colder than I'd like. But anyway, today we're going to talk about Georgia's quarterbacks going into the 2023 season. Look, there's a lot that's been dominated these last 3, 4 years by Stetson Bennett and his run to two national championships for Georgia. But over time here, we're going to have a chance to take a harder look at the three guys who have not been the starting quarterback, but who have been on scholarship for Georgia. That's Gunnar Stockton, Carson Beck, and of course Brock Vandagriff. And we got a chance at Dog Post to see these guys play a lot. Got a chance to watch Carson in 2019. Of course, he went to Georgia right after that. Has been at Georgia since the 2020 season. Got a chance to watch probably more of Brock Vandagriff than any quarterback prospect that I've seen because of him being in Athens. We saw him play 7 times live when he was at Prince Avenue Christian, and then Gunnar Stockton, a guy that I saw when it looked like he was going to South Carolina. I'll tell you, I've seen we saw Carson the least amount because of the situation. So I can't say about Carson what I'm about to say about both Brock and Gunner, which is that they both really grew on me over time. I do think it's not out of the question to say that Carson has a leg up going into the 23 season in terms of this quarterback competition. I don't I don't think Georgia will add someone in the transfer portal, but I don't know. That's not something that I would know for sure. That's more of a Kirby Smart decision, obviously. But let's talk about these quarterbacks. If you're getting cold like I am, this sweatshirt, the is available from our friends at Red Zone. I've corrected the link; it's down below. Make sure you're picking that up today. If you want me to check it out one more time, I'll put that up there in a second. I'm messing with some stuff on the table. This is something that they've got. It's exclusive to their store. So that design, as I understand it, this design, excuse me, can't be anywhere else. I do wish Georgia would recognize all of their national championships. These are the four that the university chooses to recognize. They need to recognize all of them. Josh, Jerry, y'all need to get on that because those guys won the national championship in 1946. I think it goes without saying, and they're only claiming 1942, but whatever, 1920 and 1927. So, look, these quarterbacks. There is an image of Carson Beck in Double Dogs, from his performance in the Vanderbilt game. If you are getting Double Dogs, I've done a confetti inventory. I never thought I would say that, but if you are interested in getting Double Dogs, I think we're still okay for now. Um, this is not going to be available in February. I'm just going to tell you that right now. We will not have. I thought we were running low, and I did some checking. We're okay for now. Um, but if you're going to order today. Don't you know? Don't mess around any longer. You'll get a little bit of confetti. You're not going to get enough you can shoot cannons, but you will get some confetti. So order that today. The link is down below. There's a shot of Carson Beck in here. I'm still putting the wraps on the book. The Ohio State the Ohio State game is 18 pages of an 80-page book. So keep that in mind. We really focused on the most important moments in the season rather than detailing the specifics of every game. No one's going to remember the Vanderbilt game from last year. They're just not going to. I barely remember it right now. I do remember that it was a 3:30 kick rather than a 4 just because the university was having homecoming. But we got to see Carson play a lot in that game, and he looked good. I mean, when I was talking to Dylan Weber last night, and he made a really good point, which is that we're assuming that Carson Beck will really be good in big moments. We don't know that. We don't know that. I mean, we don't know anything as far as all that's concerned. I mean, we're talking about a quarterback who, albeit has won a state championship in the largest classification in Florida at one of the worst traditional schools in Florida. We don't know what it will be like for Carson when he gets his biggest chance. I mean, he played in 7 games. He has played in a national championship game. There's not a lot of people that can say that. I mean, it's that's a significant um statement. He went 26 of 35 a season ago, 4 touchdowns, 310 yards. I think if you got Carson Beck to go 26 of 35, going 310 for 4 touchdowns every single game, there's no question that you're going to have a dog peat. That would happen. You would have a three-peat. So I just don't know that we can really expect that from Carson. I think it's asking a lot, frankly. But when he won at Mandarin, he really did play well. Here's what he did game by game, Carson Beck. I think one thing too about Carson's situation is, he was very close to being the starting quarterback in 2021 for a few games. If you talk to Todd Monken, and it just didn't work out for whatever reason. There were some injuries on the offensive line. That's why they wanted to go with a more mobile quarterback with Stetson Bennett against UAB. I mean, that was not a horrible UAB team. But all that said, here's what Carson did in 2022. He was 5 of 6 against Oregon for 71 yards and a touchdown. He was 5 of 7 against Samford with 52 yards. He was 5 of 6 against South Carolina for 55 yards and a touchdown. He only handed off against Auburn. Against Vanderbilt is where he played the most, and frankly, he really looked good in that game. He was 8 of 11 for 98 yards and 2 touchdowns, with one beautiful throw that I think was not counted. He was 1 of 2 against Tech for 3 yards and he had a couple of runs, or one run, excuse me. And then against TCU in the national championship game, he was 2 of 3 for 31 yards with a long of 20 yards. I mean, he played a lot. I mean, he played 6 games. He threw the football and had a completion in every single one of those games. So Carson has played a fair amount of football. He's just not started. He's just not started. I mean, if you may or may not recall, he went in as the number 2 quarterback against Missouri. Oh no, Stetson played against Missouri, and then Carson Beck did in 2020. I was at that game. It was just me and Roddy, and that was it. It was me and Roddy, Claude. I think it was me, Roddy, Claude, Leland, and Chris Lakos. Those last 3 from the university, and it was just us. I mean, there was nobody else there. This was the last game regular season of the 2020 season out there at Mizzou, and Georgia kind of it was the conditions were straight up. They were as bad as I've seen, with the exception of the Kentucky game this past year. Now, what made it worse about that 20 Missouri game was it was a little bit snowy, and a little bit there was some precipitation in the atmosphere. So there was some rain, snow, whatever you want to call it, sleet, but it was in the 30s. I mean, it was really bad. The weather at Kentucky this past year, in terms of the temperature, was worse, but the conditions might have been, I don't know, it was really rain. It was really windy at Kentucky. That's about as bad as I've seen outside of the 19 Kentucky Georgia game in Athens, and the 2000 Georgia Ole Miss game. If you were there for that one, you don't have to explain yourself to anybody ever again. It was freezing cold and raining. That was bad. But Carson got in that game too. But I think moving forward, you know, what Carson brings, comparatively speaking, to Brock and Gunner, is that he is more of a pocket guy, which may or may not be good. I don't know. And he's got more experience, period. He's just played more. He's been in the system longer. He's been in there this will be his fourth full year, 2021, 22, 23, for Carson being assuming he's under Todd Monken. So that's a long time to be in a system. And, you know, Carson didn't, I'm not aware that Carson threw his hands up and all this when he didn't start against UAB. Obviously, he stuck in there. Stetson Bennett did a great job these last however many games, but it's going to be different if it's Carson. if it's Brock or Gunnar Stockton, I think Brock is a more raw player. He's still developing. I think that I think Gunnar Stockton was a very well coached, very well developed player. I think the thing for Gunnar is going to be when he gets in there, how used to bullets flying is he going to be? Because I believe Gunnar Stockton will start at Georgia one day. I did not always feel that way. Okay, when I saw him play at Raven, which is not that far from where my mother grew up, so I'm up there a fair amount. I did not know that he was the right fit. Okay, because the way he played at Raven, I'm not convinced you can play like that in the SEC. But the guy can anticipate throws like crazy. He really is an exceptional athlete. Not that Brock Vandergrift is not. I mean, they've got some guys on this team at quarterback for Georgia. Right now, it looks like Carson Beck. But that's what the spring is for, and that's what these last few months have been for. Anyway, hey, if you want the confetti, you need to get on Double Dogs today. I do not know when we're going to run out. It's going to be sooner than later. It's not going to be available in February. Order it today.